Okay, so this is what we're going to do. First thing we're going to do is we're going to cover this plate, and I'm going to use Blazing Saddles to cover it, to make the reindeer. Now, in order to get this pretty close to like solid, I want this to be solid. I don't want any streaks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint. I'm going to dip this after, so I don't have to paint the back, so I'm not going to because it takes a little longer. But I want to make sure I get my sides, okay? Now, you want to put on at least 2 coats, maybe 3. Let's see how we do here. The soft fan brush puts it on pretty heavy, but what I'm going to do, this is how I make things solid, is I will put my first coat on, and you don't have to go in any certain direction with these paints if you're not, especially if it's going to be solid. If it's not going to be solid and but if you're going to see the streaks, it ain't going to matter. But make sure you get down the side there. Okay, you can see how quick that first coat dries. Now, I'm going to only need 4 coats of this, so I'm going to pour a little bit more out. This jar is almost empty. And I'm going to take a sponge, and I'm going to sponge the next coat on. Even though you might not like the sponge look, although on the reindeer, I think it'll be fine. Any kind of animal, the sponge look is probably okay. But I'm going to make this sponge look, and if you don't want the sponge look, then when you put your next coat on, you're going to brush it on. When you put your third coat on, you want to brush it on, okay? If you don't want the sponge look. So you want to do a coat brushed on, a sponge coat, and then another brush coat. Now, if I want to want the sponge look, then I'm just going to brush on a coat first. Then I'm going to sponge on 2 coats. Brushing just seems to get it nice and like you get the whole plate. Where the sponge can miss some spots. So I like to brush on the first coat. Sorry, but I got to get this. Leave that upside down. I'm just about empty on that. Okay, so now getting this second coat on. Even the second coat dries pretty quick. The front strokes dry pretty fast. Now make sure you get your edge even with the sponge. Okay, now my third coat, like I said, if I want a sponge look, I'll just do another coat of the sponge, or if I don't want it to look sponged on, then I'll do another coat with the brush. But that being said, I think I'm going to do another coat sponge because I really do want it to be a little bit sponge looking because it's an animal. And the animals have fur, so I don't know. I just say, let's just do another sponge. I like the sponge look on that. But you're just going to do it pretty solid. This is going to make it very solid. You don't have to worry about any streaking doing it this way. Even if a kid does it, they won't have streaking if they do this. Sponging, yeah, kind of takes a little more paint to do that. You know, but I think it's worth it. Of course, I get my paint for free, so it's easy for me to say. Yeah. Somebody else might go, yeah, that's what they're saying. Yeah, you get it for free. That's one of the perks of the job, I guess. Okay. My side. Now we're going to let this dry before we do anything else. But while it's drying, okay, I seem to have had enough of this color, so I'm going to put that aside. Now, for this project, this is the only color that's not in a Fun Writer. Everything else I'm doing in a Fun Writer. Now, you can brush it on if you like, but I have all these other colors in Fun Writers that I'm going to be using next. just because they go on nice and solid over the one coat, nice and solid over the brown. Whereas if I brush it on, I'm going to have to put a few coats to cover over the brown. So it's quicker to use the Fun Writer, but you don't have to do that. So while this is drying, I'm going to put this aside. And I'm going to take this. Now I've got, this is the pattern you're going to get. You're going to take your tissue paper, put it over the pattern. You're going to trace it with a pencil. Trace your pattern with a pencil. This is just regular, if you haven't done this before, it's just regular tissue paper. Very easy to use. It's got, it's just that, you know, you probably have a lot of it around for the holidays, so it's just tissue gift wrap paper, like, so works nice for this. And the good thing about the tissue paper is you can transfer this onto anything, whether it's glass, wood, a dresser, a bureau, a table, whatever you're making, you can, whatever you use, you can usually use this transferring technique. It's simple, and if you're doing a mug or something rounder like a canister, it's a lot easier to do this than to use the transfer paper, the already made transfer paper, because it's harder to wrap around, you know, a canister or a mug. So this way here, I will show you what I mean when this is traced. Okay, so now I got my now I can put my pattern aside so I can use it again. This is my tissue paper piece. Now I'm going to trace my pattern onto the plate. So now I'm taking this tissue paper that I traced the pattern on. Now you can do this either way. Okay, this is the organic plate, the dinner plate. Now I can trace this so that my nose is going to be down here, or you can use this, it's going to be down here, or you can turn it this way and trace it this way. Either way is okay, so that your nose is down here. So whatever way you want your reindeer to look. I am going to do it with this bottom part down this way. This here is going to be solid red because this is going to be my dip, chips and dip, okay, on this reindeer plate. But I'm also going to be able to put this biscuit on there if I want a biscuit. So it's up to you whether you want to paint the biscuit or not. Also, I am going to paint a nose on also, so that if I was, somebody said, you know, doing the chip and dip, they decided to take this bowl and move away from it, then you got a reindeer without a nose. So we're going to put a nose anyway, and the dish can sit over the nose if you want to. Okay, so anyway, let's trace this way. So this gives us, no, I want to do it this way. Okay, I'm going to do it with the wider part up top. Gives me a little more room for the antlers and stuff. And I think he'll be just as cute. So now I'm going to take the Sharpie marker, get my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to take, actually this is not a Sharpie marker, this is a Crayola marker. It's red, which is fine, you can use that. Make sure it's going through, it is. This is just to use as a guide. It's going to fire out. If you were doing it on a piece of wood, you would be painting over it. But anyway, on this type of piece, a ceramic piece that you're going to fire, this is just going to fire out, okay? Okay, so get rid of the tracing paper. You can throw this away or you can retrace it, but this is, you can see, this is the reindeer here, okay? So it's more or less made to be a brown plate with the reindeer on it, the reindeer face. So it's, like I said, you can make it like a chip and dip thing. Okay, so now I'm going to take the, dark brown, which is, this is Happy Trails, very dark. And I am going to use the Fun Writer. And I'm going to just go over my lines. You can do this with the brush if you like. I like to use the Fun Riders. I'm going to make this a little bit thick. This color will go nicely, it fires nicely over the blazing saddles that I have here. Okay. You can make them a little fatter. I just, you know, just going over the lines, sometimes you end up doing that with the Fun Riders, because I know the Fun Riders sometimes are hard to control. You know, the rule of thumb is hold the Fun Rider sideways. Don't hold it up like this, because that will get you in trouble with thick lines. This way here, if you hold it sideways, if you want the line thicker, you can go back over it. So this is what I'm going to do. Okay, now I'm going to take 2389, which is Sammy Salmon. Now, Sammy Salmon I use, and I know, you know, not everybody knows what to do with this color. It's one of my favorite colors. I use it for all the animals, or any animal I do, the inside of the ears, lips. I always use it for lips on even on pieces that aren't animals. I use it for lips. Sammy Salmon's a perfect color for lips or for the inside of ears on animals. Whether it's a little, you know, statue type piece, or it's on a plate or whatever. But you can see just filling that in like that is just simple and easy. Now, the white. Now, usually if I'm not using a Fun Rider, if I'm using like a brush, I will usually brush the whole eye, 2 or 3 coats, maybe even 4 if I'm going over this color. I'm going to make sure I get 3 good coats on there with a brush. And then I just do the black on top of it. But because I'm using a Fun Rider, I don't have to do that. So I am going to take the Fun Rider and I'm just going to fill in around it. See, and I got my pattern right there. I don't have to do anything different. I'm going to fill it in. You know, just take my time. Let's do my white. I scrape the plate slightly, but I try not to scrape it too much, because I don't want to clog my tube. So, like I said, hold it a little bit sideways, not up like this, because it's going to come out too fast and you're going to get it clogged up. So just kind of go slowly. So you're just filling it in. Now, with the Fun Rider, you only need the 1 coat. Do you see why I use the Fun Riders? I mean, you could do this all with a brush, but it's easier to just coat the whole plate and then put this all on top. The Fun Strokes cover the dark colors very nicely, especially when you're using a Fun Rider. Okay, so now I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to take the red and I'm going to do my circle. Just take your time with it. Now, I know sometimes with the Fun Rider, you know, you can get finger cramps. Your hands, you know, from squeezing the tube or going around, especially if you're filling in a big space. This is a big space right here to fill in. But I'm going to do the outside edge with this. This is the pink tip. The yellow tip is the fine tip. The pink tip is the regular tip that it comes with. I like the fine tip for certain things, but this tip, I'm going to change this tip, and I'm going to use an orange tip. Now, we also have these orange tips, which are very big. The barrel on the orange tip is, I don't know if you can see it. Let's see if I can show you. It's a lot wider than the pig tip. So this is going to come out a little fast, but that's okay because now I'm going on top. Now I already got my edge. Now I'm going to fill in, and I don't want to take forever to fill it in, so you can take a little bit more time and use the pink tip. But I like to fill it in a little quicker. So I'm going to do this. Like I said, you can do this with the brush, but you're going to have to do at least 3 coats on top of the brown to get it to cover. But it should still cover because, like I said, the Fun Strokes are very opaque and they will cover pretty good. And you won't have to worry about it being too thick. It would have to be very thick in order for it to crawl. You can get crawling if something's on way too thick, but it takes a lot for the Fun Strokes to crawl being too thick. Okay, so you're going to take I'm going to take this. This is the brown again. Now the brown, I'm going to do my lines on the outside of the ear. Now you can see I don't need to do this inside part of the ear because it's already got the color in it from the Blazing Saddles. So this is what I'm going to do. Now, once the Sammy Salmon dries, you can even go around that if you want, but I think I'm not going to. I'm going to leave it just the way it is. All right, now the only thing I'm going to use the black for is the eyes. So I'm going to fill in the eyes. Now you can see, I don't know if you see this, from the marker you can see like the white in the eye looks like it's turning pinkish or orangish because that's the color marker I use to trace the pattern, but that's going to fire out of there. You're never going to see that, so you don't have to worry about it just because it's changing the color. So now I'm going to do my black. Now normally I would wait till the white's dry before I do the black because it's going to run into it. Okay, but I am going to do it anyway, just to show you what he looks like. Okay, now it really is kind of still wet. The white is still wet because I did it with the Fun Writer. So the Fun Writer does take a longer time to dry the piece. Okay, so, but as long as it dries good before you dip it, you should be good. You shouldn't have any problem with colors running. Now, normally, I would take this and I will outline the eye, which I will do that, but I'm not going to do it right now because it's too wet to do that with. So, in the meantime, I'm going to put this aside and I'm going to take this little bowl and this, and I'm just going to cover it with 3 coats of red. Now, of the Rockin Red. So I'm going to take my palette back here and I'm going to coat this with 3 coats of red. Now you can use a brush for this, you can use a sponge for this. It's entirely up to you. But I am going to coat the whole piece. And I'm going to do at least 3 coats. Might even sponge on a coat like I showed you before. Just get it nice and solid. I want a nice solid red piece. Okay, that's going to dry pretty quick. When I do something like this, I do the sides first so that I can hold it here. Then I put it down and I do the top. Okay, now again, I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to do the inside of the bowl. And then I'm going to sponge it. Just because I want to get, every spot with this. Then I'm going to sponge it the rest of the coats on because I want it to be nice and solid. And like I said on this reindeer thing, I don't mind that it's going to be, you know, a sponge look. It's not a big deal. So let me put these in the bucket and let me get my sponge. Okay, now, again, I'm going to sponge it the same way. I'm going to use just this part of the sponge. And I'm going to sponge my edge. Now you should do this 3 coats. Especially if you're sponging, it should cover pretty good, so you'll probably only need 3 coats, will probably be fine. You're going to do this one. You see how nice it's covering? It's pretty quick too. I'm going to let that dry, then I'm going to do the inside. And that's about it for this plate, other than, like I said, I'm going to outline the eyes with the black. Then I'm going to be done, and then you can use this. This should cover that too, that dot. If you wanted to just put a biscuit instead of having the nose, you can make it a little bit smaller than the biscuit, and just put the biscuit on there. The biscuit can fire right on there if you want to. I like this idea of this because you can put it right here, and you can make make it look like a red nose. I am gonna cover this the inside one more coat. So you could cover that reindeer and have a nice little chip and dish for the holidays. It's kind of cute. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, and check out the website, the webpage, our YouTube page, because we got a lot of videos on there, and we'll be doing some more. So catch you later.